I often get asked, what's the difference between being not racist and anti-racist? And I submit this. To be non-racist is to not volunteer yourself in racism around you, but still let that racism around you exist. Whereas being anti-racist is actively calling out racism whenever you see it, whenever you hear it, whenever you are near it. Ben Franklin, he said it best when he said, justice will not be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are affected. So, to be anti-racist is to be outraged against racism, to stand up, to take a stand against those things which take away and detract from our society.
Welcome back to Breakdown Friday. Joseph Ward, Patrick Irvin, Professor Carl Tone Jones, and we are here breaking down anti-racism versus non-racism and looking to make sense of this video clip that we just saw from the gentleman giving his perspective of anti-racism versus non-racism, why one, the way the presentation is, one is better than the other. So, we're going to dive into it and see how it pertains to us and see how we can use these concepts, if we can use these concepts at all, to actually make sure it translates to real change and real action, because that is one of the things that the brother talked about, is doing something real. So what does that mean in relation to the concepts of anti-racism and non-racism? So Professor Carl Tone Jones, my brother, you teach at a college, so you got to start us off.
Yeah, see, that's one of the problems with this over intellectualism. It's like, sometimes we try to say shit that sounds so smart it sounds stupid. And I'm trying to get better, y'all. I promise y'all.
Yeah,
so I'm on my 12-step program. I'm trying to get better. But
and the grumpy old man.
So I agree with one part of what he was talking about with the concept of the non-racist. I don't believe you can call it a non-racist, because a non-racist, like, basically somebody, according to his definition, is somebody who just chooses not to engage in any of the social strife. And I believe at first I thought he was talking about everybody, but then I realized he was talking to black people when he finally summed it up in terms of people who just try to be inactive and blend in. But that doesn't necessarily make you non-racist. And first of all, black people really can't be racist, but we don't want to get into that conversation tonight. But, well, exuders of racism, rather. So when I heard him say that, I started thinking about all the people who just sit idly by and try to stick their head in the ground and pretend like as long as I don't make any noise, I don't have to worry about it. It's not going to happen to me. But you can clearly see that all the black people that got killed, none of them were activists. None of them identified as Pan-African. None of them identified in any movement. In fact, I think the only black person of note that actually ended up dead or, deleted was Sandra Bland, who was actually identified as somebody who was identified as an activist. And so I get that part, but if you're still participating in the system of white supremacy, which we are currently living, then that makes you a white supremacist. It doesn't make you a non-racist. It makes you a white supremacist, black, white, whatever your color is. Now, I'm looking up this anti-racist pedagogy that he's speaking about, and I did a little search real quick, and I found out that comes out of the school of critical race theory, which racism is out there, and it speaks to the fact that to be anti-racist is to do things to counter racism. And let's just flow with this for a second, because I think that when it identifies, when you look at it identifies dealing with the pedagogy of racism through a social injustice lens, so an act of social injustice. But racism as it's practiced in America, especially towards black people and globally towards black people, is not social injustice. This is warfare. And because if you can call it social injustice, then you can speak to your non-actions and you can make it non-threatening when you're responding to it. But when you say you're responding to being warred on, it kind of makes you a threat. And most black people are afraid to become that threat because through our epigenetic memory, through our socializing and our conditioning here in America, we understand that once you become a threat, threats get eliminated when you start speaking out against racism, white supremacy. And we have an ample history proving that one way or the other. So it's either going to be a character assassination or it's going to be the real deal. So we understand that. And so therefore people like to dance and become more intellectualized because they think that being intellectualized is safer. But it's not social justice. It's full spectral dominance warfare on every aspect, every angle. And this is why when we address these matters, we have to treat it with a little more veracity, a little more seriousness, because and a little more heart, so that we don't come off as this soft, nasally, academic, non-threatening Negro. You know what I'm saying? Spewing these talking points that lead to little or no justice and no action. So, and with that, man, I land the plane because I know we're going to come back to some other things.
Yeah. Yeah. So you say you thought, because I took it as he was talking to white folk.
Well, I thought that as he started off, he was talking to white folk because typically, especially when people start identifying with critical race theory. But some of the things that he said toward the end gave me the impression that he was speaking to black people who were basically inactive or non-active in regards to dealing with racism. Now, it could be wrong because if he's talking to white people, they're not active, and I get it.
Well,
I mean, well, listen, if we had power and we were running the world, why in the hell would we give up that power when we lose something in the outcome? I mean, it's the one thing that we don't really address in regards to racism, white.
Right. I try to say it as much as I can on this channel. I try to say it as much as I can. Like, the people in power don't have to give up their power just because we want them to. But so now, as we're talking here about our different perspectives of who he was talking to, you just made me think though. He might have been talking to both black and white people throughout that, because it did have the tone of talking to white people toward the beginning, and then you have the tone of the black people. So it could be talking to multiple groups of people, or just people and making that blanket statement. But to me, I took it as, and especially from the first half and one of the parts that he said in the second half, I took it as he was talking to white people. So one of my thoughts was, well, you got to really understand racism. Because if you don't understand racism, that'll have you making videos like this, I'm just saying, making statements to people who don't care. But before I get fully into mine, Pat, give us your thoughts, my brother.
I think he was talking to everybody.
Okay.
I picked up where both you guys were coming from, but I also understand this type of thinking. They try to make broad brush statements regularly. Like they're trying to capture everyone. They want to speak to everybody with their messages, and with this message in particular, it's unneeded. Because, like, I agree with what PC said. We really don't need anti-racist, non-racist, and racist. That's unnecessary complication. Look, either you're a racist supporter, or you're not. That's what we've had. That's all we've needed. Why do we have to change it to like non and anti and this and that, and all of those are terms that's academic speak that does nothing but confuse the masses. And they haven't learned how to talk to people. Like, this is the same problem that various segments of the that are trying to gain prominence in various other communities that consistently change their terminology and change the way they speak. They're having problems catching on with masses because to the masses, you're unnecessarily complicating the situation. But to a bigger question, why are we continuing this tactic of trying to shame people into action? That's my like. Okay, so I don't want to do what you want me to do, and because I don't want to do what you want me to do, because if I do what you want me to do, my family's at risk, my livelihood's at risk, everything that I've worked for, my life is at risk, my legacy is at risk, and you want me to put all that on the line because you think I should, and your grand motivational push to get me to throw my life away for a cause that you think is worth it is to shame me? Well, to me, I'm like, guess what you just did? If I was a white person that didn't like black people, now I hate you. And if I was a black person that didn't think that way, well, now I'm different from you. Like, you ain't doing nothing but giving everybody a reason to not like you. It's not it's not tactical, it's not strategic, it's not intelligent. Even if what you're saying makes sense, the delivery of it does nothing but antagonize people that at your core you want to help you. What's the point?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because I actually know a woman, white woman, who did what you just said, who actually went out there and challenged her whole township right outside of Philly, you know, well-to-do white township. But so what ended up happening is the whole township turned her own black children against her, and eventually had her committed to an insane asylum here in Philadelphia.
I think I remember
Like,
you talking about that before.
yeah, you know, I mean, I witnessed this shit, and then I've had like white women that I know come to me, especially during like the Trayvon Martin you know, the Zimmerman fiasco concerning Trayvon Martin, and how they wanted to speak out, but they knew the consequences of speaking out against their community. They would be ostracized. And it ain't like we got shit over here that we can do for them.
So you can't.
I mean, I think about it like this, right? I mean, it's not in their best interest. We got black people who don't think it's in their best interest to stand up for black people, to build for black people, to work with black people, to network with black people, to control, to build power with black people. We got black people who will throw black people under the bus. Listen, if you could wash this blackness off and gain white privilege with a special soap, you can sell that shit on Amazon for $15,000. Negroes will be out here pouring in their children to get to that shit. In a lot of cases, unfortunately. Now, people can talk that fly shit all they want. The results are the results. If it was different, our community would be different. Period. So,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? We really have to deal with the reality of the fact that we want other people to do the work we're supposed to do. Black people are supposed to be building power for black people. We know that we're in a war against against white supremacy. We know that there are people that uphold white supremacy as the system and as a power construct and a social construct in this country and everywhere else on the planet where they maintain some sort of dominance. We know this. There's no way in hell
so
they're just going to relinquish this.
I'm not gonna lie. It took me a while to kind of figure out where I want to go with this video. And I just decided to just go with how I really feel. We can't intellectualize ourselves out of racism. Show me anywhere in human history where black people, white people, Asians, Arabs, Pacific Islanders, anybody on the face of the earth at any point, any time in history who were oppressed were able to intellectualize themselves out of oppression. Because I don't know about nobody who had been able to do that because they wasn't intellectualized into oppression. They were physically put into oppression because they were under the authority of a more powerful group. So I'm not understanding why we continue to try to complicate this shit. Neely Fuller, if you don't understand what racism, white supremacy is, everything else you try to understand will only confuse you. And these motherfuckers are out here confused. Let's just say it, call it what it
And
is.
that's why
Because
ain't shit happening.
like you said, it's either white supremacy or it ain't. Why are we going to this? Well, if you're not taking any, what is real action? Because that's one of the questions I wrote down. What is real action?
Bullshit.
Is that the action that is it marching? Is it protesting? Is it having a?
No.
I mean, because those things
No.
have already proven to not work the way we do it, because it's not coupled with any power, any structure, any military might, or anything like that that can actually put some real fear in another group of people. So we're just marching and hoping to appeal to the morals of our oppressors. I wrote morals down because that's one of the things he talked about, morals.
No, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
That's a question for him. Like you're saying it's not enough for you to not do anything because black people are still getting killed on college campuses. What would you like them to do?
Right.
Like that's part of the reason why I'm like, this serves no, like, what's the point? Do you want them to get their guns and go out and patrol college camp? Like, what do you want?
That's where I was. That's my question. That's part of the I guess the bewilderment that I have after watching this, because what real action is it? Like if I'm a young impressionable black person, like I was when I was 18, 19, and I'm just starting to get into the black conscious stuff, and I come across this video and I get revved up from this. What real action do I take? Because now he told me to go do something real. So what is that? Because he didn't say what that was in the video, but what is real action? And how is that supposed to really challenge the system of white supremacy?